when Brian is giving feedback to you, Brian, obviously he's been here pretty much since the very beginning of Insomniac. Like, what are the types of things that he looks at that most people miss that help take our games to a different level at that near finished state?
Well, Brian's he's an owner of the company, and he started early on the first game, Disruptor, as a programmer, and so then, of course, he's moved into this creative officer position, and he's also been responsible for writing a lot of the Spyro games, the Ratchet games, and he was creative director on Ratchet Deadlock, and so he's had a lot of really great perspective of what makes a fun game. And in particular, he's very good at looking at the frame-by-frame nuances of the enemies and really making sure that everything feels tight. And he looks at a lot of just the little subtle things that you may not quite see in terms of, like, bringing up the quick select, making sure that's snappy, it comes up quickly so you can select your weapons. And a lot of times there's like little delays that are thrown in here and there that some people just don't notice that he picks up on. But he's also just been great at knowing how to make enemies feel very satisfying, how to add those screams or those roars and to really pump up the sounds that come from them to make them feel satisfying. So I think he's just got a really great kind of perspective on the level of detail, all the details that need to come together in just the right way to make something feel satisfying. So he's been giving us a ton of great feedback ever since I've been here, and he'll write up these huge documents on how to make the gameplay much greater. And so it's just great to be able to have that level of advice from that perspective.
I think one of the things that people are really excited about, and I know are coming a long way here right at the end, are the cinematics in the game. Do you want to talk about kind of what the progress has been like for cinematics and like what's been going on with them in the past couple weeks and months?
Yeah. Well, what we do is we've got two types of cinematics. We've got our real-time cinematics that happen in the engine, and then we've got our MPEGs that are rendered and have like post effects. And a lot of times the MPEGs are used if we want to cut away to show like a different world, or we've got a lot of different actors or characters and all in one scene that we want to cut quickly between, or we've got plates that we show. So on one side of it with the MPEGs, the pre-rendered scenes, we have one of our artists, Grant Hollis, does a lot of the post effects, and so it's a lot of compositing, putting stuff together, having really cool transitions between frames, and just adding little glows and nuances to different shots to really kind of pump it up and make it feel polished. On the other side of it, we've got our real-time scenes where this all happens within the engine, and we're finding that it's much harder now to pull off these scenes and make them feel or look really convincing and look good now that we've got much more detailed lighting and shadows and stuff. So now we have to have dynamic lights that we position for each of our real-time scenes to make the characters look good. When you have an early scene, a lot of times Ratchet's face will be in darkness or shadow, and everything looks really harsh and dark and high contrast. So it's adding those little tweaks with the lighting to make it feel like that CG animated experience. So it's just a lot of those kind of details and things that you kind of looked past or you glossed over early on because we knew we had time, but now they're kind of coming back to haunt us. We're like, oh, his foot intersects that rock, or Clank's standing in a weird position. So it's just fixing a lot of that stuff.
Well, and you say pre-render, but I think one thing is that those scenes run, we just capture those scenes and then do the work later. So they actually run in scene view in real time, though. So there are something that runs on the engine, and then we just add more to it. And I think it also helps with loading, right, is what someone was telling me at one point, too.
Yeah, well, for instance, our Metropolis scenes were all real-time scenes that we just captured, and then we put those into an MPEG so that we could play an MPEG while we were loading up the level, and that hides that level load.
Right.
So there's a lot of different tricks that we have to do to make the gameplay experience feel seamless.
Right. So it's mainly, kind of, I think a lot of people, kind of shudder at that, it's a MPEG, but there's a lot of reasons to do it because it I mean, it definitely goes from that more seamless experience, like you said, and at the same time, like, those scenes look just as good as some of the real-time scenes do, and the real-time scenes will look just as good as those. It's just a matter of making it so that it's the best experience for the user and not really worrying too much about, okay, well, that's a movie, fine.
Yeah, I think except for the scenes that have plates or some strange effects or whatever, for the most part, I think people have a very hard time telling the difference between the pre-rendered MPEGs and the real-time scenes.
Oh. Cool. Schneider's looking at me like he has nothing else to say. He's kind of like, yeah, that's where we're at. We're doing good.
Yep.
You played the game recently, right? You were saying you like stuck around and like were spending a couple late nights here playing through everything.
Yep.
What'd you think?
I love it. I mean, it's got, first of all, the graphics just continually amaze. Like, I never forget the first time I see each of these levels in their more or less finished state. You can't, I've obviously played through all the Ratchet games, and this is really like the first time where each time when I see a new level, I'm just blown away. And I like to explore in the level more than I ever have before, just to see all the subtle details because you can appreciate them more. So that's really cool. The gameplay itself, it feels familiar, and at the same time there are nuances with 6-axis and some of the gadgets and some of the new combat devices, so there's enough variety there to keep it fresh. And the humor is as funny as it's ever been. I mean, the animators did a great job of bringing the script to life, and the script itself was really great. TJ did a great job there, so I'm thrilled with it. I mean, it really feels like you're getting to play a computer-animated interactive experience, and I hope everybody else feels the same way. I think people, by and large, who played the demo and appreciated that for what it is as a sampling of an overall experience, know that what we have in store for them is far greater than what they've seen so far.
And those people who want to see more will be able to see more soon when we have our media day, which will be between now and the next podcast, though you will not see any coverage until after the next podcast, I believe.
Yes.
Because they're holding back on that, so they're just making sure everyone gets a chance to see it before the print magazines have their deadlines.
Maybe we should just talk about Media Day to let everyone know what that is.
Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, it's something that'll be coming up between this podcast and the next, and I don't know, do you want... Which one do you want?
I'll jump in. I was going to keep it on the lowdown, but the short version is that we did this last year for Resistance, where we bring in a bunch of people, journalists from all over, and they get to really take a much more in-depth look at the game experience. We try to give them exposure to all of our key departments, or at least leaders in most of our departments, and show them kind of not just the polished level, but how we got to that destination. And so we'll be doing that in the next week or so for Ratchet & Clank Future, Tools of Destruction, and we're really looking forward to it. I think some of the questions that media have continued to raise before and during and after E3 will be addressed. And we'll get to show a lot more of those cutscenes that we were just talking about a moment ago. So should be really cool, and we love hosting everybody here, and they love eating in our kitchen.
Yeah, it's always fun. So I think I look forward to Media Day every year. I look forward to any media event just because I'm buddies with so many of those guys from my days, and I think it's going to be a good time. It'll be fun to show some more stuff, and I think... always fun to take the wraps off a couple new levels and things like that. So be excited. There's more Ratchet & Clank Future info and screenshots and all that goodness coming over the course of this month. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And if you keep checking back at InsomniacGames.com, we'll obviously link to any stories that come out. So keep checking our news section there. Sounds like... Brian, we're in a good spot, and we're getting close to wrapping up, so we'll keep updating you as we get there. And I think that's all we've got for Ratchet right now.
Yep.
All right, cool.